can be difficult to set up Xero for your property investing company. So I'm a property accountant and I've set up dozens of Xero accounts for property investor clients. In this video then, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how you can do it as a property investor and optimize your account for property investing. Watch demonstration now. Okay, so I'm going to proceed with a client Xero setup. I'm just going to take you through the step-by-step points we need to cover. So starting off on the home page, this is a fairly straightforward one. There's not really been any input into Xero, so it's almost like doing it from scratch. The client's basically invited me as a user to the subscription. I can then go in and make the relevant changes to optimize the account for property investing. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to go and upload a property specific chart of accounts. I've got a separate video on this, but if you basically I've made an optimized chart of accounts which has all the different accounting codes that a property investment company or sole trader would need. So I'm going to upload that now. If you need to upload a copy, go in the description and I've got a link to a free email course which gives you a chart of accounts. It comes on about day 3. So make sure you click and sign up in the description. I'm going to click on accounting, chart of accounts. Then going to click import. I'm going to click confirm. So that's the chart of accounts imported. We just need to do a bit of editing now. So it's basically a customizable chart of accounts. There's a few kind of serials which have to be edited. So things like the director's name needs to be put in the director's loan account just to make it customized. And then we're going to put the name of the property or the properties in this case into the balance sheet and I have basically a separate accounting code for each property and for each mortgage. So I'm just going to go through and edit those now. So under liabilities then, got director's loan account there. So I'm just going to put the person's name, the director's name in and click save. We're going to add, so for each of the mortgage, in this case, one of the properties is mortgage. So we're going to put the address of the property that's mortgaged in here. Click save. Then going to go into assets. I'm basically going to add details of the free properties. So what I do is I just use the first line of the address and I basically give a shortened version of it just to make it easy for me to track. So shorten the address to just a number and 2 letters. You could put the full address in here as well. So that's the first one. Second one done. That's the third one done. So that's all the properties done. That's basically the chart of accounts now customized. In this case, this company needs a staff training chart of accounts line. There isn't one currently in expenses, so I'm just going to add one. Just click add account. I'm going to give it a unique code. So we just look at our codes under expenses. See that 996 is free. I'm going to call it expense. I'm going to call it staff training. So even though like it is a customized chart of accounts for property investing, but now and then things are going to come up which you haven't necessarily got in there, so it can't prepare for every single eventuality. So at some point you're going to need to go into the chart of accounts and add a new serial. It's really straightforward. Just find a free code, make sure it's the right account type, and then give it a name so you can find it, and then click save. Cool, so that's a chart of accounts now up to date. So the next thing we can do then is we basically need to do something called opening balances. Basically opening balances. So when you set up a Xero account, there's no requirement to go back like for multiple years and do bookkeeping and backdate your bookkeeping. And I've seen this as quite a common mistake that some people make. That's going to just be a waste of time. What you need to do is you need to basically find a point in time and basically draw that as a line in the sand and basically make sure Xero is correct as at that date, and then going forward then do up the bookkeeping for it. So in this case, the easiest way to do that is basically to get the last set of accounts for this company in this rich case and basically input that information into Xero using the numbers which have been given from the last accounts. And that is the line in the sand. And from there on forward, we're going to do the bookkeeping for it. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So first thing then, accounting settings. So let's go under conversion balances. So this is the opening balances I was talking about before. Okay, so we're in conversion balances then. So this company has a reporting date which ends on the 31st of December each year. I've got a set of accounts from the 31st of December 2024. So we basically want to put in our conversion balances as at that date. And that basically means that all of the kind of historical transactions that predate that are already kind of stored in Xero because the numbers will be accurate as at the accounts. So it's a bit fiddly now. The best way to do it though, I'll show you now. We're basically going to look at the balance sheet and the profit and loss for the company and basically put those numbers into Xero. But the easiest way to do it is actually if you have a copy of something called a trial balance. That'll be like basically one report which shows all of the kind of profit and loss and balance sheet transactions in one chart. Unfortunately, in this case, I don't have one, so I'm going to have to go off the balance sheet and profit and loss. And all it's going to case of doing is then I'm just going to need to go through and input all the data into Xero. It's going to take a bit of time, but once it's up and running, we're going to be in a really good place. So let's do that now. So the easiest way to do is initially is just put in all of the different accounting codes we need to. Yeah, then when you've got all the statement lines in there, you just need to then put all the numbers in. So ideally you'd have a separate accounting code for each investment property. In this case, I know at 31st of December there was 2 investment properties. I don't have currently the fidelity to work out the value of both, so I've just got a combined blobbed amount, which isn't ideal, but for the time being I'm going to put them as combined investment property. Then later on I'll separate them out, but yeah, ideally you'd have the values, so that'll be the purchase price plus all associated costs, and then potentially any valuations if the properties are being valued. So basically the value of both properties as at the year end, 31st of December, or the last reporting year. In this case I don't have that, I've just got the combined values which I'm going to put in and then amend at a later. A quick kind of run through, you have basically debits and credits. I don't have time to go into a full bookkeeping lesson, but basically all debits are going to need to equal to credits. And so basically use debits for assets and expenses and use credits for income and liabilities. What we can do now is we can go into the balance sheet and profit and loss, just check that everything's in there. So we're under reporting, balance sheet. Cool, so we just go into the balance sheet and we can check the numbers are accurate to make sure everything's correct. And then we do the same in the profit and loss. Yeah, so in the profit and loss, just make sure we're happy with the numbers, that everything has been taken from the accounts and put into the profit and loss. Because one last thing we're going to do then, we're going to click on the accounting settings, then in tracking categories, then we're going to basically set up a tracking category for each of our properties, and this is going to enable us then to link all income and expenses to a specific property. So next thing we're going to do then is I'm going to show you, we've basically, remember we've set up the last previous year accounts in Xero. So Xero is up to date as at the end of the last set of accounts. So what would happen realistically now is ideally we would go and set up bank feeds for this company, but because there's a big gap between when the last accounts were due and where we are now today, it's over a year actually, the easiest thing to do in this case actually is to import a bank statement. So the issue is if we do bank feed, it's probably not going to capture everything because there's a big long gap. It's all right if it's a few weeks, but if it's like a year or so, you can need to realistically import a bank statement. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So we're going to click on here, next to the account, import bank statement. What we need to have done is basically downloaded a CSV, a comma separated values bank statement from our bank. All business bank accounts enable you to do this. So yeah, just make sure you download one of those and just make sure it's in the correct format. The only kind of issue we're going to have is if the format is, rather than having amount, a column, so either amount, which is either plus or minus a figure, sometimes they have basically debits and credits. They have a column for expenses and a column for income. If that's the case, you're going to have to manipulate it before you can upload it into Xero. But assuming it's all in a simple format, which has all of the transactions either plus or minus in the same column, so the numbers in the same column, then we're all right to just import it. So I'm going to click select file, or we can drag and drop, which I'm going to do. We're going to click. Okay, we come up with this screen then. This gives us the options then to import it correctly. So we just need to make sure the columns in our bank statement align to the correct field. So date, it gives you a preview what it is. That is clearly transaction date. Counterparty is payee. Reference will be a one for reference. Type will be type. Amount, so see it says amount, that's good. If it said debit and credit and there was two different columns, that'd be a problem. We wouldn't be able to import it. So we're going to click transaction amount. Yeah, it's already in there. Days, balance isn't relevant. So notes will be script. Then we click next. Then we click complete import. Cool. So I'm not going to go through all of these. It's obviously like 12 months worth of transactions. I'm just going to show you in basic form how you can kind of set up rules for some of them and where you can just do one-off transactions for the other. I've got a full video on shows you how to reconcile different types of transactions. So yeah, basically the ways to reconcile transactions, if it's like a recurring payment, like this top one here is rent. So I'll show you in a second how to create a bank rule. That's going to mean that we can align it not only to a specific property, but also we can ensure that for any subsequent transactions, Xero basically picks it up and doesn't automatically reconcile it, but it gives you the option to really quickly reconcile it. So it's going to save a lot of time. The next one, yeah, realistically, that's a company's house web filing. That'll be for confirmation statement. That's back when it was £34. It's now gone up to 50, which is annoying. But yeah, that is technically a recurring payment because it happens every year. But I'm just going to show you how you would kind of put it in as a one-off transaction. So let's do that one first. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically copy and paste the contact, which is company's house, put that under the who, click new contact. What I would normally put this is office admin costs. You can put, there's the option C, because we set tracking categories. We could link this to specific properties, but realistically, it's not aligned to a specific property. It's a sort of generic overhead for the business, so it doesn't need to be aligned to a specific property. Then we're going to click OK. This one here I've blurred out because it's has sensitive information, but basically it's a rent payment from a tenant. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click options, create bank rule. Okay, so now we can basically set up the bank rule. I've had to blur things out, which makes it a little bit more difficult to follow, but you basically want to have one line on here in the fields. This is basically what Xero will look for in its search to link something to a specific type of transaction. So we're going to delete the first two. And I would have that as contains. I know it's blurred out and you can't see it, but basically that is the contact's name. So it's going to be that every single transaction is going to have that in, but put it to contains rather than equals to, because it just means sometimes one letter or so might change, so it's going to make it easier to it'll make sure the rule works if you have contains rather than equals. We're going to add the contacts, and we're going to add a description, but we're going to put it in the second line here. So just ignore the first one, because that's basically if you have a fixed amount you want to allocate to a contact. So we want all of it to go to a specific contact. So we're going to put in here rents receivable. And that means it's going to make it really easy then to track the income for this specific property. Going to put a name for the rule. I would normally recommend customizing the one that's normally the default one that Xero gives you, just something that you can easy to remember. Then we click save. What you're going to see there is whenever that transaction comes up, so whenever that recurring payment comes up, it's going to be really quickly just to click OK because it's linked it to that. And you can see there it is again, and click OK. And you can see how straightforward that is. So once we set up all of our rules for our recurring payments, it's going to be really quick to reconcile. Useful. If so, look forward to part 2, where I'm going to go through some more advanced techniques, such as property revaluations.